Hello, Cherry Tree Elementary. My name's Aaron McCullough, and my wife is Angie McCullough, who's an aide in Miss Mendenhall's class in the kindergarten team. So I am a veteran. I am a former Army officer. I was an Air Defense Artillery officer, serving both in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, for the 101st Airborne Division, and then also Fort Bliss, Texas, for the 108th Air Defense Artillery Brigade. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit of how I came to be in the Army. And then I'm also going to talk about some of my experiences in the Army. Let me first say, I just want to say thank you to all the veterans in attendance. Thank you for your service, and thank you for all the great things that you did for our country. So you might ask, how did I join the Army? Well, growing up as a kid, I was a history buff. I read a lot of books about history, and I was really fascinated with the Civil War and the Revolutionary War. So I had a friend in my backyard that we used to go to the library, choose some books about the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, and then we'd go outside and we would reenact it. So in part of those studies, I learned about West Point, which is the United States Military Academy. It is a college at the same time training officers in the Army. So just like IU or Purdue, you go to West Point for 4 years to get a degree, but at the same time, you're training to be an Army officer. And when you graduate, you go straight to the Army and become an officer. So in those research of West Point, I fell in love with the place. I really wanted to go there. And when I was in high school, I also was a baseball player, and they have a baseball team just like colleges have sports teams. So they recruited me to play baseball. So I applied and got accepted. So West Point is a very tough place, both academically and discipline-wise. They want to, when you first get there, essentially you go from being a civilian to in the Army in one day. And so it is a very tough place. But one of the greatest things I learned about West Point is that you can never do anything alone. You have to have your friends, your buddies, your teammates help you. And that's what they did. Some of my best friends in the world went to West Point with me, and I still talk to on an almost daily basis today. So when you first get to West Point, you go to Cadet Basic Training, which is Beast Barracks, which is 8 weeks. And you spend a lot of that in the woods, and you spend a lot of that doing a lot of training militarily and academically. And it was a tough 8 weeks. But I got through with the help of my friends and teammates and determinations. So I want to show you a couple pictures of West Point. The first one is, like I said, I played baseball at West Point, and if you could see this picture, hopefully you can. That's me on the field at West Point. And this is me in my West Point uniform. So that is what is called full dress gray, is the uniform, and that saber, the sword that I'm holding, is you get that when you are a first class cadet or a senior. And one more picture I'll show you about West Point is this one. This is what they call the plane. The plane is where we have parades. A parade is where a senior officer, like a general, they review the discipline of their soldiers by watching a parade. And that's where you see sometimes marching in straight lines across the field. What they're doing is they're reviewing the discipline of their soldiers. So after West Point and I graduated in 4 years, I became an air defense artillery officer. And I want to talk a little bit about my experiences. Um, the Army is I is one of the greatest experiences that I've ever had. And the big reason why is the soldiers. So when you're a second lieutenant, that was my rank when I graduated West Point. You are given a platoon, and a platoon is 15 to 20 soldiers that report to you. And what I learned on day one is how great our soldiers are and how important a non-commissioned officer is. A non-commissioned officer is your right-hand man or woman that helps you every step of the way. They're usually more experienced. They have been there before. And I learned on day one to rely on that non-commissioned officer NCO. Also in the Army, some of my other experiences, when I was in the 101st Airborne, before I joined that, I went to airborne school. And out of all the things that I did in the Army, I think jumping out of airplanes with a parachute was the most fun. Sometimes it wasn't fun when you landed pretty hard, but when you jumped out of an airplane, it was awful fun. And at the same time, I got to rappel, which is you go down a rope a lot from helicopters, and that was a lot of fun. And I will say that probably the most difficult part of the Army are really the long days and nights when you're in the field, or it could be in the desert, or it could be in the woods. And as an officer, you always are the last one to go to bed. You're usually the first one up. And a lot of times, as being a leader, you let your soldiers eat first. So sometimes you skip a meal because there's not food left because you're serving all of your soldiers. So sometimes you have some pretty late nights. Also, with those late nights is a lot of travel. So you're walking a lot of places. So it was pretty challenging. So I want to show you some quick pictures when I served in the Army. This is my unit. That's Echo 243. That was the battery that I was in charge of. And this is that same battery doing the greatest exercise in the world, which is the push-up. So if you want to be in the Army, make sure you do lots of push-ups. And this, you could see, that's my unit in front of a Patriot launcher. That's the missile system that I was in charge of. And real quick, I want to show you one more picture. This is a picture of, if you could see it, Miss Angie and myself in front of our house in Fort Bliss, Texas, which is near El Paso, Texas. So in closing, I wanted to just talk to a little bit about my experiences at West Point in the military. But I want to just encourage everybody, all the students, to be proud of your country. There are lots of folks out there that are protecting us, protecting our freedoms. So it's really important, if you see a veteran, walk up to them and say thank you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for keeping our country free, and thank you for protecting me. So I want to thank you all for letting me share some of my experiences in the military. I absolutely loved every second I was in the military, and I still talk to a lot of the folks that I served with, especially at West Point. So I want to say thank you. And once again, thank you to all the veterans out there. Thank you for your service.